Fight Club is definitively one of the most polarizing movies I have ever come across. Some people take the surface level psychological thriller and frat boy appeal of the movie, and others watch the movie over and over again to understand its commentary on masculinity, modern society, conformity, mental health, popular culture, and our pathetic yet constant struggle for idealism as a society and moral posturing as an individual in its connection. I mean, probably. I wish I knew for sure. The point I'm trying to make is there's a lot going on in this movie, and some people love what it has to say, some people hate what it has to say, others miss the point completely of the movie and then love it or hate it anyway. One of the people who found the movie extremely disturbing was Rosie O'Donnell, who hated the movie so much that she gave away the twist ending on the weekend after its release while she was shit talking it on her show. On the surface, the movie is about reclaiming your masculinity with your bare hands in a time where you are discouraged to embrace your natural instinct with the help of the voice in your head and descend the world into its hunter-gatherer roots because that's how the world makes sense to the best version of us. Even though we might not agree with it. This interpretation is definitely misogynistic because if this is what you took back from the movie, then Mala Singer is reduced to a trigger to a psychological disorder, and the roots from insecurity about the lack of identity and women as nurturers altogether. Remember that this is an impression of the movie if you haven't paid attention. It is yet possible that you remember the third act of the movie. So you don't think it's misogynistic, but you still believe it's irresponsible and it talks about a lot of sensitive topics in a detached and arguably cruel manner, while leaving the dangerous ends of the story open to interpretation. Now, to drive home the open to interpretation part of the statement, Trash Theory made an excellent video essay about the same movie, which claimed Tyler Durden is the perfect manic pixie dream girl version of the noir film world, just to imply how Tyler Durden is whoever you, the audience, wants him to be. I'll link the video in the description because it's extremely beautiful. You should definitely check it out, especially if you're a big fan of the film. But does it mean it's irresponsible? Well, I don't know. I think I've digressed a little. This isn't about what the film was meant to be by the artist or how it can be interpreted. It's about how I interpreted the movie, and I completely forgot about that. Anywho, one of the villains the movie portrays throughout the duration of the film is authority and purpose. Well, not authority exactly, but surrendering your individuality to the authority or purpose of any kind. The real villain in the first half of the movie seems to be capitalism and the rationalized and dehumanizing world that it has resulted in. The Wisecrack video about this movie touches on one of my favorite lines in the movie where the narrator says,
"Home was a condo on the 15th floor of a filing cabinet for widows and young professionals."
If you haven't watched that video, watch that one as well if you're a big fan of the film. I really like it. He, the narrator, is aware that modern society has turned him into a cog in a machine and his life's purpose has not been decided by him. His frustration comes from a severe lack of contribution to his own identity and overbearing presence of products in it. Hence, he reduces himself to a possessionless lifestyle, living in the opposite world, where everything is dirty, dingy, and unnecessarily large, where he owns nothing. After the narrator sets himself free, he drives his peers, like, Bob from the group earlier, to his purpose as well. And that's how Project Mayhem is born. Now, Tyler, the guy who helped him create Project Mayhem, has again caused the narrator to completely lose his identity and the identity of everyone who followed in Tyler's steps. These people literally have no names in Project Mayhem. This is well exhibited by how the members of Project Mayhem deal with Bob's death, that they've completely missed the message. It is clear that Fight Club as a movie is strictly against assigned purpose. Whether the authority is nameless, faceless, and soft and manufactures consent by fear of unemployment in a system where hobbies exist to rejuvenate people so that they can come back to contributing to society, or following a hyper-masculine alpha male with a radical perception of what freedom and equilibrium means, who manufacture consent by assigning you a purpose that is supposed to be assigned to you by nature. The movie clearly says that both of them treat you like mindless slaves who is to be used and thrown away. I like to believe that one of the biggest themes in the movie is in fact individuality and how its failure to exist in a vacuum for a social being is confusing, frustrating, and saddening altogether. Then there is the undeniable and inalienable connection of the movie and the masculine identity. Fight Club is quintessentially a male movie, and there is no way that a female Tyler Durden would exist and work in the same way. Throughout the movie, the one thread that is viewed and passed around constantly is emasculation, both socially and literally. Let's not forget the context of time in this movie. 1999 was on the edge of the 21st century, and by this time it was becoming clear that men were no longer normative. Women had cemented themselves as a part of the workforce, and determining factors for you as a successful human were, in a very long time in history, were not physical strength or agility oriented. They were completely or partially oriented towards intellect or bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is a very different kind of chaotic than the hunter-gatherer world. And that is not an easy transition to deal with for everybody. Psychologists who study the evolutionary roots of human behavior seem to suggest that if statistically nurturing and child rearing comes more naturally to women than men, then finding purpose in a world that is saying goodbye to gender roles is genuinely difficult for a fair number of men, and that creates a vacuum in their identity. Tyler says this himself. Think about it. Protection and gathering are also no longer necessitated to be done by men. Reproduction and providing for child rearing is about the only social function that men carry out in the evolutionary sense as a contribution to their instinct, and the rest is just survival-oriented breadwinning. The reason that is a problem is that the masculine identity as a gender, as a social construct, has not changed drastically at this point in time. And for most males, especially in the urban world of late capitalism, it has created a vacuum of purpose. A man receiving two messages from inside and outside his body, along with a lack of social support relevant to the same problem, creates a perception and threat of emasculation. In the context of the movie, the masculine ideal for the narrator has been created for him by society and his mother's upbringing, which is vague and contradictory from time to time. Hence, his resultant identity crisis. The narrator's lack of care for bureaucracy, along with his insecurity about how he looks, paired with an identity defined purely by capitalist terms that are agreed upon by Western society, and his complete lack of purpose and encouragement from the outside, creates the concoction of Tyler Durden. It has been brewing in his head for a while now. The frames of him seeing Tyler laugh at his pain as he struggles with insomnia are quite iconic, and a signature trope of the movie itself. He cures his insomnia only by gaining sympathy and attention for the pain he's never felt. He only loses his catharsis when somebody inauthentic shows up in the same place. Mala Singer single-handedly ruins everything because she knows without a doubt that this damaged person is faking pain, and in the eyes of modern society, he's just as pathetic as she is. There's also the fact that he's sexually attracted to her in one way or another. That is exactly when Tyler enters the narrator's life, for a catharsis that is dignified, validated, and applauded by his peers, and also because he wants to feel and look like he asserts dominance and takes control of his own life. Mala is important because she is the anchor in reality for the narrator, and while he has to shoot himself in the face to make sense of the craziness around him, holding hands with Mala just makes him accept who and why he is the way he is. It is also important that we talk about Tyler, the idea. It is hard to miss that Tyler is the opposite of practice what you preach. He throws away the idea of what an ideal man looks like, but at the same time, he's Brad Pitt. He promises people a way out of their lives of mindless slavery to the corporate overlords by giving them mindless slavery without kindness or benevolence and catchy phrases. Throughout this movie, Tyler looks the way you want to look, fucks the way you want to fuck, and free in all the forms that you're not. He's just free from physical limitations of existence, which is why he's so appealing and the worst idea you will ever have. A consequence free life is only for the fictional because identity does not exist inside a vacuum. And that is a sad truth that we all have to live with. In conclusion, the entire point of the movie is there is no point to any of this. It is purely nihilistic. Whether you like to prosper in the corporate world, would start a counterculture movement, give your life a greater purpose, or only invest in your development, whether you are driven by emotion, instinct, or thought, life in modern or postmodern society only has one meaning for you. Fuck you. Nothing makes sense, and something may feel special, but it really is product of the capitalist world and is somebody trying to make money off of you.